Hello there, Ramblers, and welcome back to Reese Rambles, my weekly podcast all about the latest comings and goings, movings and shakings, and indeed all the rest of it in the worlds of vintage and retro computing, gaming and technology. Hope you're all doing well out there. And for those of us here in the UK, a gloriously hot and sunny weekend, bank holiday weekend no less. So 3 days off for a lot of people as well. Not quite sure what I'm going to be doing on Monday. I know a lot of people are going to be off work, but I am technically self-employed and I don't get paid for stuff like that. So might be here in the studio working on some stuff. Not quite sure. I do have some longer running projects and things going on that could do with getting finished. Anyway, of course, you're not here to hear about that. You are here to hear all about the London Marathon, of course. And I promise all of you, this is the very last time I talk about this until next year, because there's a very good chance we'll be running it again next year. But of course, my wife Catherine and I did complete the London Marathon last weekend. Very, very hot temperatures. I know a lot of people suffered. We saw, unfortunately, some people really suffering with the heat, being looked after by St John's ambulance. But we did survive it unscathed. Here we are at the finish line, by the way, with our medals, our 45th running of the marathon. Not for us, of course. I'm not quite that old, but of course it was the 45th running of the London Marathon this year, and also another world record attempt as well associated with that. So, of course, a Guinness World Record for the highest number of participants in a marathon, which was something like 57,000 people. And it also means that I'm now a Guinness World Record holder. And yes, we are eligible for a certificate. And yes, I did pay for my certificate because, as we all know, Guinness World Records is just a massive money-making scam. But I think it's a legitimate thing to be a part of, isn't it, in this case? Not every day you get a Guinness World Record. So, I guess I'm a bit like Tommy Tallarico in that respect. But what's he? Has he got 7 of them? Yeah. Anyway, so, time-wise, the goal was just to finish it. Of course, we wanted to raise a lot of money for our charity, Breast Cancer Now. I've raised about £2,800 so far. Catherine raised getting on for £5,000. So we're getting on for something like £8,000 between us, with £8,000, which is absolutely fantastic. Makes us some of the top fundraisers for our charity as well, which is why I say that it's quite likely that we'll be running it again next year, because they're well within their rights to ask us, to offer us a place for next year if we want it. And to be honest, we're interested. I mean, we've also entered the ballot as well, so we're very interested. But if you want to donate, the link is down below, and this is genuinely the last chance, and genuinely the last time that I will be talking about this. But we finished it. We did the full 26.2 miles around central London, starting off in Greenwich, in a lovely big park over there, and making our way around Greenwich and back into London. I must admit, there are some parts of London that I don't know very well, but of course, quite famously over Tower Bridge and through Canary Wharf and kind of past the Houses of Parliament, Big Ben, all of the kind of the major landmarks down the Thames and the Thames Embankment and the London Eye and all that stuff. So, really fantastic day out, I will say. Less about the running and about the fitness, I will say, and more about the kind of the carnival atmosphere and the kind of the party that's just everywhere, literally the entire course. I knew, I've been told by people who'd run it in the past. I know quite a few people who've run it in the past, that the atmosphere is like nothing else. But I'm kind of tearing up a bit just remembering this. All like the pubs. They had like DJs out the front. Of course, because the weather was absolutely glorious as well. They had people in their front gardens and people having barbecues and people playing loud music, bands, steel drum bands, and choirs singing, and there was a priest outside a church flicking holy water at people and blessing people at one point, so we got blessed at the beginning of the marathon. There's a huge stage with like playing disco music with all sorts of absolutely brilliant experience. I can highly recommend it to anyone, even if you don't consider yourself to be that much of a runner or that fit particularly. Sometimes it's the taking part that counts, and of course raising lots of money for charity. They also raised record numbers, amounts of money for charity as well this year, I will say. So how did we get on? How did we actually get on? Of course, there is a time. We did start and we did finish. So without further ado, rather than keeping you all waiting, 7 hours, 3 minutes and 33 seconds, a 7-hour marathon. That's over 2 hours longer than it took me to do it in Birmingham in 2018. it's been 7 years since you know what? I don't need to give you excuses. We finished it, we raised a load of money, and we had a fantastic time. So, it is what it is. I have said that next year I do want to do it a bit more competitively. I'm sure a lot of you are aware that I do CrossFit and stuff like that. And while I'm not particularly into running at the moment and haven't been for quite a few years now, I think having proved to ourselves that we can finish it, I think next year I'm going to go for a bit more of a competitive attempt. So, yeah, look forward to that. But that's that. Yeah, they had all the hot weather protocol in place. So they had ice stations, which they don't usually have. They had like water showers, big like fire hoses spraying across the course in I think they're like every mile or so, and it was very, very hot. So yeah, just glad to have completed it. Very, very proud, and most of all raised an awful lot of money for a fantastic charity as well. So thank you to all of you ramblers out there who did support me and who have donated, or have at least said some kind words and encouraged us and lent us your support in that way. It's all very much appreciated, and I promise I will shut up about the London Marathon for now. So let's get on with our stories for this week. It's time to once more dip our toes into the wonderful world of MiSTer. That's right, that fantastic FPGA, or Field Programmable Gate Array system built around the DE10 Nano board, an evaluation board for the Cyclone 5 FPGA chip. And of course, the unique approach of that chip, the FPGA, being that it can be used to basically replicate any other kind of chip or logic of any other system at a hardware level. So it makes it a very authentic way of enjoying various systems, all the way from the the Commodore 64, the Atari 2600, the Mega Drive, the NES, the SNES, the ST, the Amiga, the Spectrum, all the way up to the Sega Saturn and the Atari Jaguar. I'm sure the MiSTer doesn't need any kind of introduction to my audience, but as you'll know, I am a huge fan of the MiSTer, and it is something that I am always very keen to cover in these rambles. And in particular, the MultiSystem, because that's the one that I own personally. And I will say that I've been shopping around for MiSTer stuff for a very long time, and hadn't quite taken the plunge on that. And then, of course, Heber came out with the MultiSystem. I do have some good friends there, I will say. I just want to put that out there, but yeah, I've had the original MultiSystem since 2021 now, and was very lucky to be one of the first people to cover it on YouTube. Here is my video from December 2021 of me assembling my MiSTer MultiSystem, and this thing has been a regular fixture next to my gaming PC, permanently connected to my monitor, hooked up to a few different 8-bit DOE controllers over the years, and I do fire it up pretty regularly, actually, probably at least a few times a week. Just to have a quick game of, Gunstar Heroes on the Mega Drive, or something like that, or indeed to check out the latest developments in the Saturn Core and the Atari Jaguar stuff as well. So, yeah, big fan of the original MultiSystem, and the big news this week is that there is a new one, the MiSTer MultiSystem 2. And if you're wondering why I'm chuckling, it's because this is about the 15th take of this. I think this hot weather and marathon recovery is driving me a bit doolally this week. But anyway, let's persevere with this one. Hopefully this will be the good take. So I have been sent the press release for this, of course, because I do know Richard, and always keen to support the MultiSystem. But I'm not going to read through the press release. There's all sorts of interesting information in here, and I'm sure there's a lot of podcasts and YouTubers that are going to cover this word for word. So let's just go check out the website. And yeah, what is the MultiSystem 2? So it's a next-generation, all-in-one consoleized retro gaming machine which uses cutting-edge FPGA hardware emulation for the most accurate gaming experience compared with playing on original hardware, which I believe is what I just said. But it has the unique offering of the MultiSystem 2, along with, of course, Taki Udon's Superstation, which I talked about quite recently as well, is that rather than using the DE10 Nano board that I mentioned a moment ago, the Cyclone 5 FPGA is actually built into this. So the whole board is designed around that chip, freeing it up from the confines of that kind of educational evaluation board, if you like. So, it frees up some of the I/O on board the chip for various other uses, and just kind of reduces the cost and reduces the complexity of the project, and means that they can sell it as kind of a complete finished thing that you can just plug into your TV and get on with gaming and not have to kind of assemble and, like I say, mess around with buying boards and stuff like that. So they've made it even simpler, which is great. Fantastic to see. And they have revealed the design of this and also the pricing and stuff this week. And you will be able to order one in the next couple of days, which is absolutely brilliant. Of course, there's this new website as well, multisystem.uk. And one thing that the multi-system offers kind of over and above the other systems out there is these interchangeable cartridges that you can plug into its proprietary expansion slot. And that is also available on the multi-system 2 as well. So it's fully compatible with those cartridges. So you've got stuff that has the cartridges like the original controller connectors on, so you can use your original controllers. There's one that offers a composite video output. There's the one that uses the MT32 Pi, it has a Raspberry Pi inside it, and you can slot it in and you can use it as an MT32 for all of your MIDI music for your DOS games and stuff. Really cool ecosystem they're actually starting to build up around this. The Multisystem 2 does also offer Zapparoo NFC support, although you will need to buy a little bit of additional hardware to support that. It's offered as an official add-on. So, you can actually change games using NFCs, which is really cool. You can use NFC tags to load various games on the MiSTer system. And they are offering 2 versions of this. So there's the digital version and the analog version, they are calling them. The digital being the lower cost offering. So this is essentially just USB controllers, HDMI output, and you plug it straight into your TV. And that's pretty much, well, I'm going to say pretty much all it offers. I mean, it's a very impressive system. You load up your cores and your games and things on the SD card. It doesn't have stuff like onboard Ethernet and Wi-Fi, although, of course, you can buy a very, very inexpensive Wi-Fi USB adapter and plug that in and get it onto your Wi-Fi network if you want those online updates and things. Or you can go with the analog version of this, which adds all sorts of extra stuff. It uses a Mega Drive 2 connector for SCART output, so you've got full RGB video output on there. You've got VGA output on there. I think there's VGA on the digital version as well. I'm sure I read somewhere. Not quite sure. Anyway, it has digital audio output via the TOS link. It's got it's got expansion connectors and all sorts of exciting extra bits and bobs. One thing that did surprise me about these was the pricing as well, because I do think they are actually pretty reasonable for what they are. And I think Heber have even said that even they were surprised that they managed to get the price down as low as they could. So very good to see. The digital version is £204 and the analog version is £252. So yeah, just what's that, an extra, less than 50 quid extra for all those extra expansion options and connections and things as well. But it's quite cool to see. So that's the MiSTer MultiSystem 2, and I think perhaps this is the most obvious comparison that we can see here. We have pictures of the fronts and backs of the units here. So if we look at the digital version, on the back we just have the barrel jack for power, we have HDMI, and we have 2 USB ports. And if we look at the back of the analog version, as you can see, there's quite a bit more here. There's a 3.5mm audio output. There's the TOS link, the RGB video out, the VGA, the Ethernet, and of course, there are these 2 removable panels on the sides that hide these internal expansion connectors. There has been some debate or some discussion about this online. They use the exact same board. It's just that the digital version is missing the components to support the extra functionality. So, if you're a bit of a tinkerer, a bit of a hobbyist, and want to add the headers and things back on to the digital version for a very minor upgrade, you can do that. Although I'm not quite sure why you would do that, given that the price difference with the analog is not all that much for all the extra functionality that you get. So I think this is a very, very cool offering. And there is also a video as well explaining how all of this works. It's half an hour long over on the Retro Collective YouTube channel. And of course, I will link all of this down below, the shop page, the official website and everything. And of course, this video. There's also this rather spiffy little screen, which isn't available yet, but will be at some point in the future as a kit. So you can buy the panel yourself very inexpensively, and you can turn this into essentially like not quite a handheld console, but a self-contained little thing with its own little built-in screen with a 5:4 aspect ratio as well. So you can play Atari Lynx games in their own native aspect ratio, which I know Richard was very excited about. But as mentioned, I think this is a really, really cool offering. And for people like me who didn't want to kind of make those decisions about which add-on boards and things I wanted to, add to the DE10 to kind of configure my own MiSTer system, I think the multi-system is absolutely fantastic for that purpose. Now, I will say, I will say outright, I'm not going to be buying this. I have absolutely no need for the multi-system 2. It looks very, very cool. Don't get me wrong. And, my hat is off to Richard for coming up with this. I think it's a brilliant thing. And I may well be getting my hands on a review unit at some point. I was offered one, and I decided to let some other kind of smaller channels have at it first. Because, I was given that very special opportunity 3+ years ago when I was in that position. So I thought it was only fair rather than me kind of trying to hug the limelight. But, I'm so happy with my original MiSTer. And, this is much more nicely packaged. It's kind of a much better integrated solution. But other than stuff like the higher quality analog video output, I think this thing offers, what did it say here? I must admit this isn't something I've been keeping up with. But you've got the higher, 24-bit analog video output. So you've got onboard dip switches for 16 or 18-bit video output. I'm not sure the original multi-system offers that. It doesn't have the internal header for the Zapparoo system and stuff like that. But to be honest, I'm happy with mine as a kind of all-in-one thing as it stands, so I will be sticking with that. But if you've been on the fence about getting on board with MiSTer and want something that's just complete, that you can just plug in and go and play all those old computer and console games and stuff, I can very much vouch for Heber's work, and I have no doubt that this is going to be a wonderful thing. Of course, there's also the Taki Udon system as well out there, the Superstation, which I have been covering and keeping up to date with, and a few other solutions as well in the MiSTer world. So do shop around, but a very good offering, and always good to see a new piece of hardware available in the world of MiSTer, because I think it's a great thing for retro gaming, for game preservation, and that's that. The MiSTer MultiSystem 2. Fantastic looking product, and go check it out. My next story was submitted by Technic over on the Discord server, so thank you ever so much to Technic for your submission. And indeed, if you'd like to submit a story for coverage on Reese Rambles, there is a link to join the Discord down in the description. There's also a fantastic community over there as well, I will say, chatting away all day, every day, about all sorts of things, including gardening and pets. And old computers as well occasionally. But this was a story that was very close to my heart, because my first computer, the very first computer I ever had way back in the 80s, when I was far too young to be owning a computer, but hey, I guess that's how forward-thinking my parents were, was the Acorn Electron, of course, built by that titan of British computing industry, Acorn, and the cut-down version of the BBC Micro, which features quite heavily in this story, as it happens. And I will just also mention, just to round out the Acorn range from the 1980s, of course, there was the Archimedes as well, famously with that ARM CPU. The Acorn RISC machine, a CPU that has gone on to power pretty much most of the world today, I will say. All of the world's kind of mobile devices, Android and Apple devices, all the tablets, set-top boxes, the Raspberry Pis. There's a lot of servers and stuff that are built around the ARM architecture nowadays, and indeed even the machine that I'm recording this on, this M1 MacBook Air, is an ARM-based chip as well. So something that I think the British computing industry should be very proud of indeed. And that's what this story is all about over on theregister.com. So it has been 40 years since the very first ARM CPU was powered up. 40 years this week. So it's 40 years since the first ARM processor was powered up, and the UK's Centre for Computing History celebrated in style with speakers to mark the event, hardware on show, and a countdown to the anniversary. And there is a picture here of a BBC Micro that I just wanted to take a closer look at, because this is on display in the reception, in kind of the lobby area of the Centre for Computing History in Cambridge. And this pretty much sums up the kind of stuff that they have in that museum. All sorts of unique and very, very historically important. I mean, if you think that the chip in this picture is the predecessor of the chip that's basically now powering the world, this was the very first version of it. In its development setup, hooked up to that BBC Micro. Kind of hard to overstate how important this thing in this picture is, and I have indeed seen this in person. Quite awe-inspiring to see some of this stuff, if you are interested at all in computing history, which I would wager you probably are if you're listening to this. But this external interface, called the Tube interface, was kind of one of the big selling points of the BBC, or kind of one of the many facets of a very multifaceted machine, which was also quite well known for its incredibly sophisticated graphics and sound capabilities, its connectivity, its expansion capabilities. I mean, it really was all round, just quite a very well engineered and very well thought out machine. And that's why it was used as the development machine for the ARM CPU. Anyway, let's get back to the story. So it's difficult to overstate the significance of the ARM architecture and its impact on the modern world. However, the prospect of powering billions of gizmos was not top of mind for Acorn staffers gathered around a BBC Micro. The computer, a familiar sight in classrooms throughout the UK and plugged into the televisions of well-heeled parents, allowed the attachment of a second processor. There was a unit with an additional 6502, another contained a Z80, and this one could accept Acorn's new RISC chip, freshly stamped out by VLSI. At 3 p.m. on April the 26th, 1985, having been plugged into the test board attached to the BBC Micro, power was introduced and the processor worked. Sophie Wilson, author of BBC Basic, another great aspect of the BBC. I mean, personally, I think one of the best dialects of Basic out there. That's me talking, not the article. Anyway, author of BBC Basic and one of the brains behind the ARM chip, copied an ARM version of the Basic interpreter and typed a command. Everything checked out. So there we go. This goes on to say how the chip essentially worked first time, apart from one very small bug, and how the power consumption of the chip was much, much lower than anyone on the team actually expected. They knew that it was designed to be low power, and indeed the low power consumption of the kind of ARM architecture is part of the reason it is so big today and why it powers all of these mobile devices and things where, of course, battery life is a huge consideration. We've got pictures of the original development team, so we've got all 10 of them here, who apparently spent 8 months developing the chip, and the actual figure was 120 milliwatts that original chip consumed, which was considerably below the 2000 milliwatts demanded by some contemporary CISC processors. And indeed, even today, a lot of other CPU architectures being famously a lot higher in power consumption than ARM. So Steve Ferber also spoke at the event, apparently, and he was responsible for the microarchitecture of the first ARM processor. And he said that the fact that you can write the whole ARM description in 808 lines tells you how simple it was. So, I won't go through and read the whole thing word for word, but it pretty much sums up the event, the 40th anniversary of the ARM CPU, that event over at the Centre for Computing History. So if you want to read a bit more about that, there is an article over on theregister.com, which will be linked in the description. There's also some coverage on YouTube as well from some people who were there at the event. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it, so I'll try and track some of that down for you as well and link to some of that if you want some further viewing. But just wanted to mark a very important anniversary in computing history, and a very important British innovation as well, which I think we can all be very proud of. So there you go, 40 years of ARM this week. Video game preservation is a cause that is very close to my heart indeed. Of course, the biggest entertainment industry in the world, and something that's sadly quite often hampered by copyright laws and very foolish decisions on the part of developers of, always online requirements and DRM and stuff like that, which it has led to some quite alarming headlines in the past about big chunks of that cultural heritage not being available to future generations to kind of study and document and, well, let's face it, play and enjoy. And unfortunately, there has been another kind of big blow to the world of game preservation this week. A big story coming out of TimeExtension.com about a group based over in Japan. So let's shine a bit of a spotlight on this and try to raise some awareness and see if we can help these people out. So the headline here is we might be about to lose a powerful force in the world of video game preservation. And the subheading, quite a scary subheading. When you do the maths, we are completely out of cash in September. Currently, in our bank account, we have £2,100, around $2,800. It's not even enough to pay the rent for 1 month, explains Joseph Reedon, head of the Japanese Game Preservation Society. He's describing the end of the non-profit organisation he set up in 2011 with the aim of properly safeguarding Japanese gaming history before it is lost forever. The GPS has successfully preserved thousands of Japanese games, including many floppy disks, which have a finite lifespan, and related media, such as magazines and books. Honorary members of the society include Tomohiro Nishikado, who is the creator of Space Invaders, Yuzo Koshiro, Streets of Rage composer, Yoshio Kiya, who is responsible for Dragon Slayer and Sorcerian pronunciation? Not sure. Tokihiro Naito, who is the creator of Hydelide. Yet, despite attracting the support of such legendary figures and operating in one of the world's most influential nations when it comes to interactive entertainment, the organisation is on its last legs. I'm paying 25% of the rent, reveals Reedon, meaning we are already virtually out of business. We have monthly supporters, but are losing between £260 and £420 every month. When you do the maths, we are completely out of cash in September, and a non-profit organisation cannot be out of cash. We're then out of business. What we really need is to bring in at least £750 every month. It's not that much if it's 400 people giving £2 a month. Some people might give more, so we need 300 people to become supporters so that we can stay afloat. Otherwise, we shut the laboratory and we won't have a place to do preservation or archiving. It's the end of the adventure. Now, this is quite a long and in-depth article, and I have read this, and it does go into some great detail about the work that the Game Preservation Society has been doing over the years. So, the guy interviewed here, Joseph Reedon, is one of 2 English speakers on the team, which may be why you haven't heard about this group before, because they don't really do any kind of outreach or marketing. They're very much based in Japan, very much got their heads down, just working on trying to archive as much stuff as possible. And if you know anything about the Japanese gaming industry, you'll know that it's quite... I think it's fair to say, obviously, kind of a product of the way that Japan was at the time in kind of the 70s and the 80s and even into the 90s, quite kind of insulated from the rest of the world, and quite unique and interesting, some of the ideas and some of the games coming out of Japan at the time, and a huge influence on Western gaming as well. So I think they are doing incredibly important work here, but the main... I think what I found interesting about this story, the main thing that's kind of brought up in this story is that they're very much hampered by the Japanese government and by the copyright laws over there. And they do lobby and they do campaign to try to get these changed so they can get some stuff actually released. The article does also talk a bit about the Video Game History Foundation as well in America, and how they've also been kind of hampered by similar issues with copyright. They've got quite a bit of stuff preserved that they're hoping to be able to release at least someday, that unfortunately they can't put out there at the moment due to those laws. And the group that's being talked about here in this story has an additional hurdle in the fact that they're actually set up as a non-profit in Japan, and the laws around those are very, very restrictive indeed in how they can kind of raise funds and how they can pay people and how they can kind of fund their operation, which is just making their life even more difficult. So yeah, it's amazing that they've kind of been able to achieve what they have been able to achieve, but this is a bit of a cry for help and a bit of a last-ditch effort at trying to get some support on board. So, they don't have a Patreon. They don't have kind of anything like that, and that is all connected to the way that, unfortunately, this is set up as a non-profit in Japan. So they're kind of a bit stuck. Their hands are a bit kind of tied by the laws and the customs of the country in which they are operating. But if you want to know how you can support them, the information is in the article, as well as a very interesting history of the group and of the work that they are doing. This did catch my attention, and I am going to be lending them some support myself as well and throwing some money their way. They do release a regular newsletter as well, which, for reasons known only to them, it is released as a PDF, and they do mention in the article here that the latest issue has only been downloaded twice, including by the article author, as at the time of writing. I'm guessing a fair few other people have been and checked that out as well. So you can go and download that and check it out for free if you want to see all about the work that they are doing. And yeah, it includes interviews and stuff with people in the industry. So actually quite an interesting publication in its own right. But hey, I could go through and read some bits and pieces from this, but I think I've pretty much summed up the story and the situation of this group, the Game Preservation Foundation. Game Preservation Society. So yeah, a bit of a sad tale, but wanted to bring some attention towards that. So if you want to go and help them out with their efforts, like I say, they don't actually release anything that anyone is able to play. So a bit of a tough sell, I think, but I do think that it is quite important. Like I say, they are campaigning to try to get that changed and try to get some stuff out there eventually. Really interesting story, if nothing else, and interesting insight into some of the challenges faced by those working in the world of game preservation. Some more rather unfortunate news from the retro gaming world in this next story, I'm afraid. So, yeah, apologies for that, but yeah, let's take a look at this one. So, if you've been part of this community as long as I have, you are no doubt familiar with a website known as Polygon, which has been around since 2012, apparently. Yeah, 13 years, so quite old in internet terms. And a website that's certainly come up on my radar a few times with their excellent, coverage of the gaming industry, their excellent journalism, and kind of their more in-depth articles and news stories and things. So quite a well-respected publication. But it seems that that's not going to be the case any longer, thanks to a recent acquisition. And this is reported over on Kotaku.com, oddly enough, which no strangers to this kind of thing themselves, but we won't go into that in any kind of detail in this story. The headline here is Polygon sold to Valnet and hit with mass layoffs. One of the biggest gaming sites around was just blown up. And I must admit, I didn't know anything at all about Valnet. I first saw this as kind of some chatter happening on Blue Sky from some of the people who are involved with this, but yeah, this makes for quite grim reading if everything in here is to be believed. So we shall continue with the story. The video game website Polygon has been sold to click farm powerhouse Valnet, and much of its masthead has been laid off, Kotaku has learned. The sale was subsequently announced in a press release. Multiple staff members have posted online about losing their jobs or about colleagues now being out of work. I am no longer with Polygon. If you're hiring, please consider the many talented writers and editors now on the market. Posted Polygon co-founder and editor-in-chief Chris Plant. Every one of them deserves a spot on your staff. I won't be talking more about the sale because I wasn't involved, going to hang out with my kid, taking wins where I can. So, the price of the deal was not disclosed, but sources tell Kotaku that deputy editor Maddie Myers and games editor Zoe Hanna are among those that remain at Polygon. Executive editor Chelsea Stark said the layoffs included over 20 staff. Vox Media, who were the owners of Polygon, did not immediately respond to a request for comment. I'll say more later, but I no longer have a job, shared senior reporter Nicole Carpenter. I'm looking for work, as are so many of my amazing colleagues. I have lots of ideas and things I'd like to write. I'm really in shock. I had a great time working at Polygon. Posted senior writer Michael McWhirter. Please let me know if you have any cool job openings. Founded in 2012 under Vox Media, the site quickly established itself as one of the premier outlets for original reviews, reporting, and cultural analysis in the world of gaming. Polygon's coverage of video games, movies, TV, comics, and board games are some of the best around, while its forward-looking design sensibility helped elevate the way stories were presented and told online. I mean, yeah, I remember reading stuff on Polygon. It was like reading a print magazine. I mean, it was that kind of quality. So, yeah, really sad loss. And this next paragraph. Valnet is based in Montreal and operates Screen Rant, Game Rant, comic book resources, and other mass aggregators. The company is run by Hassan Youssef, who got his start in digital media with online porn websites. The addition of Polygon not only strengthens our editorial muscle, but also amplifies our ability to deliver unmatched value to both audiences and advertisers, Youssef said in a press release today. In a report earlier this year by The Wrap, many former contributors accused Valnet's current media holdings of being exploitative content mills. Wow. In journalism, there are really bad jobs, and then there is a place like Valnet, a former Collider contributor told The Wrap. It's one of the worst places that I've ever worked, and it's probably one of the worst journalism publications I've ever seen. That is not a ringing endorsement, is it? Valnet responded to the investigation by suing The Wrap for libel, claiming the reporting was full of errors and had caused the company's founder tremendous emotional distress, affecting, among other things, his mood, temperament, and his ability to sleep. So yeah, there we go. Not many details about the actual sale price or anything like that, or the number of people laid off. Although I think what was the number that was mentioned here? 20 plus or 20-ish people laid off. Quite a sizable workforce for an online, an online publication. And of course, I guess they're all going to be replaced by AI scrapers and the like, by the sounds of it. And will all of that historical content be left online for future generations to read, or will that all be lost, or be lost to kind of the sands of time as well? I guess only time will tell. But yeah, really sad loss, really, this. I'm a big fan of Polygon, I must say, over the years. So there is an update here as well, I should probably add, from Vox SVP Chris Grant, SVP, Senior Vice President, of course, Vox being the old parent company of Polygon before it was sold. He was also the founding editor-in-chief of Polygon, it says here. He says, 14 years ago, I pitched what would become Polygon to a startup called Sports Blogs Inc. on the unfurnished third floor of a DC townhome, he wrote. I held a laptop on my knees and went through a deck. Today, that same company, now called Vox Media, sold Polygon to Valnet. Their press release proudly calls Polygon a premium gaming publication, but Valnet literally refused to meet with me or answer a single question of mine throughout this process. They were wildly incurious about how a gaming publication even becomes premium. I really, truly hope that the remaining Polygon team gets a chance to continue the work we all cared about so much. But somehow, this is the end of my journey with the thing I created. My most heartfelt thanks to the entire team. I'm sorry things ended this way. So, R.I.P. Polygon. Another really big and kind of great name in online gaming journalism. Sadly lost. I must, like I say, I'm not really familiar with Valnet as a company and with their other publications, but if this is all to be believed, this is a very kind of sad day indeed. So watch this space, I guess. There are two reasons I'd like to cover this next story in my ramble, if you may. The first one being that this is, of course, one of the most important and indeed the single highest grossing game series of all time. And of course, there is also a retro connection as well, with it having started way back in '97 on the PlayStation and the PC. But also, second, perhaps more important reason, is that this was submitted over on my Discord server by Manimo. And it gives me another opportunity to mispronounce his name, which I know he always enjoys. So, without further ado, I am, of course, talking about Grand Theft Auto GTA 6, the latest installment, which is currently under development and has been the subject of quite a bit of controversy as well. There were some leaks of some early development footage quite a while back, a couple of years back now, in fact, and that kind of forced Rockstar's hand into revealing some details and an official trailer of the game, which was quite a long time ago, as we will soon learn. And speaking of quite a long time, they've asked for quite a bit more extra time to finish developing GTA 6. So, this was supposed to be released in the autumn of this year, but they're now saying that they are targeting May 2026. So that's an over 6-month delay. And they just need a bit of extra time to get it polished. And there's also been a bit of chatter from Rockstar themselves, I guess, talking about how they want to try to avoid kind of crunch and burning out their staff, stuff like that, which is something they have been quite heavily criticised for in the past. So fair play to them if this is also kind of a developer staff welfare thing as well. They can certainly afford to delay it a little bit and milk a little bit more money out of GTA 5 Online in that way that they do. So, over on the BBC News website, Grand Theft Auto 6, one of the most eagerly awaited releases of all time, has been delayed until May 2026. The sequel in developer Rockstar Games' record-breaking video game series was due to be released on consoles later this year, but it told fans it needed extra time to deliver at the level of quality you expect and deserve. The previous game in the series, GTA 5, is the second best-selling video game of all time, and remains extremely popular thanks to its online mode. Little official information on GTA 6 has emerged since a trailer for the game was released in December 2023, quickly reaching over 100 million views. I think that about broke the internet, didn't it, when that was released? But December 2023. What's that? That's getting on for 18 months ago. It's 18 months. No, not quite, but yeah, like a year and a half ago. Blimey. So the 90-second clip revealed two main protagonists and a glimpse of the game's fictional Florida-inspired setting, Leonida. In its statement, Rockstar said the interest and excitement in the game had been truly humbling for our entire team. The company is known for its long development cycles, and the 12-year gap since GTA 5's release has sparked a wave of jokes and memes online. It also has a track record of delaying major releases, such as 2018's Red Dead Redemption 2, the studio's last big new game. But Rockstar is also known for its perfectionist approach, and Strauss Zelnick, CEO of parent company Take-Two Interactive, previously said each new game from the developer needs to be something you've never seen before. And I must say, that is something that the series is kind of quite well known for. So, fair enough. Yeah, you can't really rush out a half-baked GTA game, can they? Although they did do that remaster, didn't they, a while back of Vice City, was it? GTA 3? Yeah, it was really terrible. Although that wasn't Rockstar, was it? I can't remember. Anyway. There is a fantastic interview here from a gamer called Dien Kowende, and he is 27 years old, and I quite enjoyed this. So I'm absolutely furious right now, he tells BBC Newsbeat. There's fire flowing through my body right now. This year, I literally got a job just to save up to get a PlayStation 5, says Dien. It's all ruined now. Although he praises Rockstar for making amazing and complex games, the 12-year wait is getting too much for him. This was very cool. Of course, he says it's all this is partly to do with the price increases for the PS5 and the Xbox as well. But yeah, this delay certainly isn't helping. But yeah, this is the cherry on the cake. This is. Are you ready? I'm getting really impatient at this point, he says. When GTA 5 came out, I was in school. I was a teenager. I might start having kids soon. I might not even have time to play GTA 6 when it comes out. Fair play. I mean, that's adulthood for you, isn't it? But yeah, I enjoyed that. I did enjoy that little snippet there. But yeah, the news here, GTA 6 has been delayed until May 2026, having been originally announced for release in autumn of this year, 2025. So I guess we're all going to have to sit tight. And of course, there was a lot of speculation at the time that other developers would be actually be delaying their own releases to try to avoid clashing with GTA 6 because they knew that they basically couldn't compete. So who knows what knock-on effect it's going to have on other games in development as well. I guess that remains to be seen. But there you go. And that, my dear Rambler, brings me around quite neatly to my regular video of the week feature, wherein I talk about a video that I have seen here on YouTube in the past week that has entertained or enlightened or amused or otherwise improved my life in some way. Quite often they are retro gaming, computing technology related, and quite often they aren't. But this one very much is, if you count the very late 90s as retro, I guess. Of course, yeah, this is a game that was released in 1998. So the channel is called Radiation Hazard, and the title of the video is Half-Life Extended is Peak. Which is a very cool title. But yeah, this is, of course, about Half-Life, Valve's groundbreaking first-person shooter. Very, a game that's very well known for its kind of interactive elements and its kind of very story-driven gameplay without, resorting to cutscenes and that kind of thing. Environmental storytelling and some really cool kind of scripted elements and things happening in the game. And it was very, very ambitious for its day and pretty much pulled it off as well. And has been fondly remembered as one of the best games of all time. And I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who would argue with that. So what is Half-Life Extended? Well, Half-Life Extended is a modern-day mod for Half-Life that adds loads and loads more detail. So I'm not talking about upscaled textures or, more detailed player models, that kind of thing. They've taken the original levels and the original story, and they've added extra bits of machinery, extra offices off to the side with computers and people, scientists, and just objects and things everywhere. They've really fleshed out the world, stuff that Valve couldn't have done with the hardware limitations of the PCs of 1998. And according to Radiation Hazard here, who kind of covers Half-Life stuff pretty extensively on his channel, he is very, very much on board with this as someone who knows Half-Life inside and out and who is a very passionate fan of the game. And who am I to argue? I mean, I love the original game as well, and having sat and watched all of this video, all 17 minutes and 40 seconds of it, I think this looks like a really brilliant project. But probably not one that I'm going to get around to actually playing. So, this video pretty much sums it all up for me. And what is covered here is basically a demo of the mod. So it's kind of the first section of the game, kind of showing their work, showing what they're trying to achieve with this project. They've reinstated some kind of textures and things, some areas from the alpha versions of the game, and even an enemy from the alpha versions of the game, which ended up being cut in the final version, which is really cool to see. But they've done it very much kind of in the spirit and within the kind of the look and feel of the original release, which is a very difficult thing to pull off. But I think I am in agreement with Radiation Hazard here that they have indeed pulled it off. So really cool thing to see. I wasn't aware of this project at all. Obviously, I was aware that there was a modding scene around Half-Life, but people kind of trying to take Valve's original vision and just fleshing out. I mean, you can see here, this is kind of the arrival, the reception area here. The elements that you recognise are there. There are just some extra bits and pieces around the outside that add a load more detail and kind of make this research facility, of course the world famous Black Mesa research facility where the game is set, a bit more believable as a real space in kind of 2025. So I quite enjoyed what they were doing with this project. I quite enjoyed the coverage on this channel. It's a very well made video, very well put together, and kind of shows it all off in great detail with a little bit of humour and stuff as well. Very easy watch and a very enjoyable watch for me. So that's Half-Life Extended is a Peak, coverage of a Half-Life mod called Half-Life Extended on a channel called Radiation Hazard. It's 17 minutes and 40 seconds long, and trust me, if you're a Half-Life fan and you choose to watch this video, that time will fly by because it's a really great video, very entertaining. So thank you ever so much to Radiation Hazard for putting this together and showing us what this mod is all about. But there we go. I, of course, haven't released anything myself over on my main channel this week because I was away all over the weekend. I'm not sure if you've heard, but I was running a marathon. I guess I'll hit the ground running again next week. We'll have to see what I come out with. But at the very least, I'll be back with Reese Rambles in the usual place, 2 minutes to midnight on Friday night UK time. And hopefully have a load more retro gaming, computing and technology stories for your enjoyment. So that's all I have for you. I hope you are enjoying your lovely hot and sunny weekend here in the UK, or indeed, however it is, wherever you are across the world. Thank you ever so much for watching on YouTube or listening on one of the podcast platforms, Spotify and Apple, iTunes, all that. It's all out there. Links are all in the usual places. That's all I got for you this week, folks. So, bye.